there's been a ton of stuff going on here in the MMA world. First thing I want to talk about is the Bellator MMA event that just happened. We got a new lightweight champion over there. Michael Chandler dropped a bomb on Patricky Pitbull, knocked him out to win that vacant lightweight title. Rampage Jackson fought again. He fought Satoshi Ishii, and he squeaked out a very close decision victory. A lot of people thought that he lost that fight. Very controversial. There was also Matt Mitrione fought on that card. He made his Bellator MMA debut in spectacular fashion, winning by knockout. Next thing I want to talk about is Michael Bisping and everybody and their mama calling him out on Twitter. Anderson Silva's calling him out for a rematch. Anderson Silva just lost to him, and now he's thinking that he's going to get a rematch for the title. GSP is wanting to come out of retirement to fight him, and man, it's just everybody. I don't know if they're thinking that he's going to be the easiest, way to become a champion here in the UFC or not, but Michael Bisping, it looks like he's wanting that rematch with Dan Henderson, at UFC 100. Dan Henderson knocked him out, and he's kind of rubbing it in his face a little bit by making t-shirts of him like flying through the air, like it looks like he's about to come down on Michael Bisping. And I think Michael Bisping's wanting that fight, and I don't blame him. I'd want a rematch too after that. Next thing I want to talk about is the UFC. Man, they are stacking this UFC 202 fight card. You've already got the Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz rematch on that fight. They just announced Carlos Condit versus Damian Maia. This is your classic striker versus grappler matchup. Carlos Condit is one of the most dynamic strikers in the UFC, and Damian Maia has the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the welterweight division and quite possibly in the UFC. The thing is, Carlos Condit, his takedown defense is his weak point, so that throws up a big red flag, and it's just going to all come down and, if Damian Maia can get it to the ground or if Carlos Condit can keep it standing, that's entirely where I think this fight's going to have to go, how it's going to play out. They just added Anthony Johnson versus Glover Teixeira. Man, these are two guys these guys have probably the best hands in the light heavyweight division. Anthony Johnson probably hits harder than anybody in the UFC. He's the scariest guy I can think of. Glover Teixeira, he's a little bit more technical. I'm going to have to pick Anthony Johnson in this fight. He's just so scary, and I think Glover Teixeira is going to try and stand with him, and if you try and stand with Anthony Johnson, you're just asking to get knocked out or TKO'd, man. I'm just going to have to pick Anthony Johnson by TKO. We got a fight, we got the lightweight championship coming up in the UFC. We got Eddie Alvarez is going to try and take on Rafael Dos Anjos. Rafael Dos Anjos, man, he's just looked unstoppable here recently, and I'm going to have to pick him, but Eddie Alvarez, that's a good matchup for him. They kind of have a very similar fight style, and Eddie Alvarez, he's got really good boxing. I would not be surprised if he upset, if he came out with upset and won that title, but I'm just going to have to go with Dos Anjos. He's just looked so good here recently. And the last thing I want to talk about, is Ryan Jimmo. We lost another fighter here, and his was so tragic the way he died. Reports are saying that he was out driving late at night, and these guys were tailgating him, and he pulls over on the side of the road trying to get them to stop, and there was a confrontation. So Ryan Jimmo he's walking back to his truck, and these guys in this other truck just floor it and run him over and kill him and just drive off. Man, it's just so tragic. He was young, God. Where I first saw the guy was his UFC debut. He is fighting Anthony Perosh, and it's this 7-second knockout, and immediately after he does this crazy robot to split dance, just celebration, and right then I was like, okay, I am a fan of this guy. Everything I've ever seen, he just seemed like such a nice guy. I'm so sad, Supposedly, the cops have arrested these two guys that were the ones that ran him over. I just hope something comes out of it. I at least hope that Ryan Jimbo's family can get closure out of this. It's just so tragic, and we've lost so many people here in 2016. I just really wish it would stop. Man, Ryan Jimbo, he just seemed like one of the good guys, left out in the MMA world. All right, guys, we got some fight cards coming up. I'm going to keep making videos. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you guys think. Thanks.